July 30th, 2025. Thank you for being here. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. I want to start with this. Over the last 24 hours, a lot of earthquake activity around the world. There was that 8.8 in magnitude in Russia yesterday. I was monitoring that tsunami threat on the Pacific side all night long. And then yesterday afternoon, evening, we had that earthquake in Guatemala, not nearly as huge as that 8.8, which is one of the biggest recorded. This was 5.6, about 10 kilometers down or 6 miles down, so relatively shallow. So a lot of us did feel it in parts of Guatemala. There was some significant shaking in spots. Just know that I keep an eye on all of the seismic activity around. So I'll keep an eye on that for you, got you up to date on that, kind of watching that behind the scenes. But we did have that earthquake, and additional quakes have been kind of popping up around Guatemala over the last few days. I'll monitor. All right, let's get a look at this. We have a lot of spins out here on the eastern Pacific side. Heavier rain, southern Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Jamaica, as expected, like we talked about yesterday. Some of us would be dry, others would see some storms. That's what happened. Some of us were seeing the storms in the distance, and we just didn't have a whole lot in spots. Scattered areas of rain across the Caribbean as a whole, but watching these stronger tropical waves that are out there, there is some of the heavier rain in this cloud cover here. Even as we get into parts of Guatemala and Belize overnight, I've been watching a couple showers, especially south of Belize City, where we did have some of the showers around, not as much for the Yucatan, and we did have a couple showers around overnight, parts of the Cayman Islands. Now we get out here we are in the Caribbean. Now I want to go long term with the American model and the European model. They're both showing some signs of development now out of a few tropical waves that will be eventually headed our way. And you see out here, it's this tropical wave in particular, the one I've been tracking over the last few days. Long term, as this eventually lifts up toward the Bahamas, it may start to develop some. So we need to watch out for this. Now for us in the Caribbean and Eastern Caribbean, it's going to bring us a better chance of rain. So I'll highlight that, but we'll be watching this longer term for development. In the European model is trying to develop another tropical wave back behind that. Still watching that dust, as we know. Here we are in the Caribbean. Here's this area of dust right here. Thicker dust would be in the yellow, but still some decent dust in this purplish shading. And thinking of you if you have breathing issues, and a lot of us have been too dry. So the dust can be a good thing on one hand, preventing some tropical development, bad hand on the other when we need some rain. But as this next tropical wave slides in, the one I just showed you in the Atlantic, it will be accompanied by some of the dust. So it may not develop in the short term, and that's what I've been mentioning. But long term, once some of the dust kind of settles, there's not as much as we work our way. This is as we work our way into Monday, August 4th. So kind of going out in time, there's not as much dust around. After that, some of these tropical waves may start to develop. On top of that, we know the water temperatures are warm. Here's an updated map for you on these water temps. We're running around 29, pushing 30 degrees Celsius now in the northeastern Caribbean. Even around Trinidad and Grenada, the water temperatures have gone up. The Gulf back through parts of the northern Caribbean, super warm now. Same thing back through the Bahamas. So if you get anything that kind of passes over these areas, that'll act as fuel. The water temperatures act as fuel for these things to develop. That's why this spot here, the one in the Atlantic I just mentioned, once it moves closer to the Bahamas and the southeast U.S., it will have a slight window to develop. The American model has this becoming eventually a tropical depression or tropical storm. Now I want to be very clear, not as it's near the Eastern Caribbean, right? None of the models are showing development as it approaches us in the Eastern Caribbean. But as it slides toward us in the Bahamas, some of the models are hinting at some development at that point down the road. So this may be something that does develop, but it will take a while. It'll be something we'll be watching together over the upcoming videos. And then I want to show you the European model in a second, developing the wave back behind it. Here is this tropical wave here that we're watching in the Atlantic. And here we are across the Caribbean, Gulf, Southeast US. Here's Bermuda. This green here is not rain. That's actually some of the dust that's kind of wrapping around this. And the dust is with dry air and sinking air, which means it's not conducive for development. So you can see as we go out in time here, here. This is Friday. You could see some of the extra rain here as we go a couple days out. That's the tropical wave approaching. Almost all of the models are showing a very similar scenario, at least over the next few days with this. This is much like the Canadian model, German. We'll get into the European in just a second. Here's that tropical wave approaching us by Saturday, and some moisture building as well to the south of it. So we could have a decent shot of rain, and boy, some of us really need to get it. Hopefully it's not too much. We know how it goes. It could be too much too quickly, right? But you can see here, by the time we especially get into Sunday, that's when we have a better chance of rain. The Dominican Republic swinging all the way back down with some of the rain. Now there's going to be a front to the north. This front up here is going to help draw some of this rain back to the north. So as we go out in time here, this is going way out in time. You can see the clock on your screen. So we're looking deep into time, and this is going to change as we well know. So we're looking about a week out, and you can see this is over a week out. Some of this rain from that tropical wave that we're tracking here eventually ends up near the Bahamas, maybe just north of Haiti, Turks and Caicos north, approaching Florida and the southeast U.S. At this point, it may develop some. There is a possibility it becomes a tropical depression or tropical storm. But again, this is over a week from now. The weather is hard to forecast 3 days in advance, let alone 7, 8 days. But just to give you a heads up, I like to give everyone a heads up of what we're watching together. Again, nobody's in, we're not in monitor mode or action mode anywhere. We're just going to have some several areas to track. Now, here's the European model, different vantage point. Here we are in the Caribbean, and then you can see this tropical wave sitting right here. This is that first one, in very much like the American model that I just showed you. Here we are in the Caribbean. It shows an area of rain approaching. This is by Friday, and you see some of the extra rain in through here approaching us in the Caribbean. This is kind of riding around this area of high pressure to the north. So high pressure is just to the north. This area will kind of march its way off toward the west-northwest, and we have that front over toward the U.S. Here's Bermuda here. Here's Haiti, the DR, back through Puerto Rico. So this here is Friday, and then as we get into the weekend, we'll get some extra moisture. But like the American model, it's not showing development, but no doubt an extra better chance of rain parts of the northern Caribbean all the way down through the eastern Caribbean. So better chance of rain St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Martin, where we haven't had a whole lot. And then this area works its way toward the Bahamas. But there's a second area behind it. There's going to be a lot of areas, but there's another area behind it. This again, way out in time. This is over a week from now. Next Friday, so about a week and a half from now, it is showing another area trying to approach the Caribbean that may become a tropical storm. Again, I'm not mentioning that in an alarming way. We know there's going to be tropical storms and hurricanes popping up, right? And we're going to be tracking them together. But the European model is definitely picking up on more signs of development as we work our way into about the second week of August. And almost all of the models are just showing some sort of a development across the Atlantic basin in mid-August. So it's going to get more active, but it is showing another tropical wave that we're going to have to watch for the possibility of it becoming a tropical storm as we get into about a week and a half from now. Here's a closer look, and then I want to show you some severe weather and the rain totals in just a moment. Here's what we have today. Just like yesterday, spotty shower storm possible, heavier rain parts of Central America, a lot of action in the Eastern Pacific. A couple named systems out there. I'll show you those in just a moment. Here comes that dust as we work our way into tomorrow, into Friday. This is some of the dust, and there's some of the rain popping up. So it's my job to kind of know which one's dust and which one is rain. And you see here by Friday, you can see some of the rain getting closer, but really as we work our way into the weekend, this is Saturday, most of the rain just off toward the east of us, but you see these blobs of rain that will move in. So it does look like Sunday for us. In the Eastern Caribbean, we'll see a better chance of rain. Now, it's still going to be, it's not an organized system, so it could still be one of those spots. One of our islands is getting dumped on, getting some good rain. Cisterns are filling up, while another island is just missing out on the rain bands. You could even maybe see it offshore, and we're on the dry side. So it's not a guarantee all of us get the rain, but the rain chance will be higher, especially as we work our way into the second half of the weekend. Now, look at this. Several systems out here. This is Iona, and then just back behind it is Kelly. Kelly's falling apart, staying south of Hawaii. Couple more spots back behind it, and then a lot of moisture building. Watching this for Mexico. Heck, the last couple of years we've had some systems trying to work their way back towards Southern California. So monitoring all of that. But as we go out in time here, just going way out in time, keeping an eye on Hawaii because things are so very active. There are a couple tropical disturbances that look like they will develop. And down the road, we may get a couple that make a run at Hawaii, at least bring some better rain as we work our way through the first half of August. So it's not out of the question. While a couple of these systems are south of Hawaii now, there's going to be a few spots to watch that will make a run at Hawaii. And I'll keep an eye on these developing and just how close they get to the Baja as we go out in time. So the central and eastern Pacific, very active. You could see right here, here's Iona, and this is working its way back through the central Pacific. There's Hawaii, south of Hawaii, and this here falling apart very quickly is Kelly. Now we have two systems right next to each other. Are they combining into some sort of superstorm? That's not what happens. What happens is if they both stay strong, they actually rotate around each other. That's one thing that could happen. The second thing that could happen is if one is stronger than the other, the stronger one just kind of takes hold of the environment and the second one weakens. That's what's happening with Kelly. Kelly's falling apart, just kind of losing its steam. The environment's not right for it. Iona has really taken over the environment, so Kelly's just falling apart. So that's what happens when you have two storms that are very close, two named systems very close to each other. Now, watching a couple showers and storms in New Brunswick today, where we need to get some rain in spots, heavier weather, southern Wisconsin, over toward parts of Illinois, and there's the buildup of rain in the southeast U.S., and still watching the storms back through the Rocky Mountains. New Mexico, northern Mexico, really northwestern Mexico, watch out for the chance of flooding. But heads up tomorrow, some stronger storms possible. Not so much the Atlantic region of Canada, more so New England and the mid-Atlantic. Flooding will be a possibility. I'll show you those rain totals in just a moment. And then this is that front that's going to move off the coast of the U.S. Extra showers and storms southeast U.S. and still watching out for some scattered storms back through the Rocky Mountains into the plains. But as this front starts to drift toward Bermuda, it's actually going to pull up our tropical wave and help to work it toward the Bahamas as we get into several days from now. It's amazing how the weather's tied together. That's why I do like to give you kind of a broad perspective, because if one thing is doing something in one area, it's impacting something happening in another area. Now the rain totals, Bahamas, we're not seeing a whole lot. Hit or miss showers, spotty showers possible the next few days. Rain chances not super high. Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Cuba, yes, some showers and storms, and it's one of those patterns. If we get it, it could be strong, giving us a quick 25 to 50 millimeters of rain, but the overall rain chance is not super high. Inch or two of rain if we get a thunderstorm around Puerto Rico. Guadalupe south, slightly better chance, where 3-day totals may top 25 millimeters of rain or an inch of rain in some spots. Suriname, northern sections, better chance of rain, seeing scattered areas of rain in Guyana. Venezuela, mainly interior sections, but spots of heavier rain, watching that as we swing back through parts of Central America. Still western Nicaragua, not a whole lot. That's been one of the unusual dry spots. And then around Mexico City, that chance of some of the flooding. Watching some of that rain still back through New Mexico, kind of around the horn for much of Texas. But this area here, this is where we're going to get some heavier rain over the next few days, mainly with some thunderstorms, some higher terrain in some of these spots. That could lead to some runoff in some of the streams, some of the rivers, but we could get some spots 4 to 5 inches of rain plus in some of these locations, parts of the Carolinas, giving you that heads up. Now the seas are going to build. Watch what happens here. We'll see some elevated seas, just a bit of a chop in the Caribbean, but as this tropical wave in the central Atlantic approaches, by Friday, that's when we're going to see those elevated seas. So Friday and Saturday, the northeastern Caribbean and those Atlantic passageways, we're going to see those elevated seas with that tropical wave that will be moving in. So for us in Jamaica, only a 30% chance of a shower storm, slightly better chance for tomorrow, 30% chance back through the Cayman Islands, 20% chance the next couple of days in Trinidad. It's not until we really work our way to the end of the week and the weekend, Barbados, St. Lucia, in which that rain chance goes up with that new tropical wave moving in. So kind of waiting on that new tropical wave. We're mainly dry in Grenada, even St. Vincent the Grenadines, mainly dry over the next couple of days. Rain chance minimal now in Martinique, up to a 40% chance by the time we have Friday. Same thing in Dominica, Guadalupe, Guadeloupe, rain chance staying on the small side, about a 20 to 30% chance over the next couple of days. Still on the low side, Antigua, Barbuda will get some dust, and then hopefully the better chance of getting some of the rain for us. St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, 20 to 30% chance, only a 20% chance Anguilla and St. Bart's over the next 3 days. Limited chance St. Martin, Saba, and Statia. Isolated passing thunderstorm possible in Puerto Rico, small 10 to 20% chance. U.S. and British Virgin Islands, 30% chance of rain in the Bahamas, just spotty. But we're going to keep an eye on what happens next week as this tropical wave approaches. At the least, it looks like we're going to get a much better chance of rain. 20 to 30% chance Turks and Caicos, spotty thunderstorms possible in the Dominican Republic. Some could be strong. Watching even a couple in Haiti, about a 30% chance. 40% chance in Belize. We've already had some of that rain from overnight around. Meanwhile, the ABC Islands, we are mainly on the dry side, staying on the low side with that rain chance over the next 3 days. Guyana, rain chance about 60%. Suriname, about a 40 to 50% chance of rain. Isolated thunderstorms possible in Cuba, and about a 60 to 70% chance. Costa Rica and Panama, 60% chance in Nicaragua. 60% chance Honduras, 50% chance by tomorrow, and a 60% chance Guatemala and El Salvador. And watching some of that seismic activity, the earthquake activity around Mexico City, we're staying on the active side. Just about a 40% chance across the Yucatan Peninsula, 40 to 50% chance in northern Colombia, and the rain chance in northern Venezuela, about 40 to 50% as well. And we'll watch some of these fronts getting closer by the time we work our way into the end of the week and the weekend for Bermuda. So with all of that said, tropical waves and the dust, that's what we're tracking, watching for any signs of development. Again, we have that healthier tropical wave in the central Atlantic. Short term, not developing. Long term, it may develop. And as I was even showing you on the European model, there are some more tropical waves that look like they will eventually develop, which is common for this time of year. I got you covered. I'll be tracking that for you right here on this channel. Have a very good day ahead.